Greetings my fellow knights and welcome back to Recon by Fire. For today's video, I'm going to be breaking down a list for each detachment in the Imperial Knights Codex. First up, we have a Valour Strike Lance, which is our more mobility heavy detachment. There is consideration for taking the extra movement quality here, but I still, for the sake of this video and my personal preference, always take the reroll hits and wounds to up our consistency, especially on our low attack weapon systems. This list will focus more in the shooting phase, as that is what this detachment focuses on, giving us assault, but not allowing us to charge. With that, we're going to start with our bigs. We are running 2 Knight Crusaders. I am leaning heavy into this, kind of mimicking what you are seeing on the Chaos side with double Gatling guns and double rapid fire battle cannons. And so I'm bringing 2 Crusaders, both equipped with the Gatling cannons and the rapid fire battle cannons, allowing us to just dump a ridiculous amount of shots into our opponent from any range because of the 72 inches on the battle cannons. And they are each equipped with the Ignores cover enhancement and the stealth enhancement, essentially buffing each other after the movement phase, giving one Ignores cover, which is huge, and the other stealth, and that's typically the one you're going to push forward a little bit if either of them are going to soak up damage. It does make it slightly awkward if the layout that you're deploying on forces you to be on opposite ends, but that is why we're bringing in a Trapos. This will be our frontline big, essentially. It's going to be a little more aggressive than the 2 Crusaders because it does have a melee profile, but so do take into consideration when to advance it and when not to. But it allows us to have some forward moving anti-tank as well as a melee threat if needed to. We are a little light on the melee or on the anti-tank, but again, I think we're just going to drown our opponent in shots, and so we're not too worried about it. And so our smalls or armigers, we are bringing 2 Warglaves and only 1 Halvarin, and that essentially again is leaning towards our anti-tank, making sure that we have things that could get there and pop those anti-tank vehicles when we need them to. The Warglaves having assault makes it to where they can get those extra inches, and if you pre-measure, you can give them the additional 4 inches to make sure they get within melter range if needed. Those are going to be our front runners to kind of push forward early if needed, again, based on our opponent, and draw fire away from our bigs so we have them later on. The extra mobility allows our bigs to get where they need to later in the game. 1 Helvarian, just because we need that long range access, and 48 inches is fantastic on its weapon system, and just another armiger to kind of soak up some of the shooting. Do not be afraid to give it the stealth or Ignores cover enhancement if you need to, based on the terrain feature. Moving along towards our allies, I've made a choice here. I ended up dropping the Caldas Assassin. They gave me enough points to work around this list to bring in a second Immolator and one of the enhancements. I don't remember which one. Trying this out, essentially dumping the mobility of the Caldas Assassin and the Vect, which can be crucial sometimes when you need to turn off a crucial Overwatch or heroic intervention, but it's a little tankier, pun intended, and brings us again some additional. The flamers aren't as important in this detachment or in this list because we are running 2 Crusaders that can pick up a lot of chaff, but they are useful. They also each bring a Hunter Killer missile. They have smoke, and they are a little tougher than our armigers, so we can run them out early. And then we are already bringing the Battle Sister Squad that splits them into 5s, so we can put 1 in each so we can bring them. Typically, you're going to start off with 1 near the center that we can sacrifice for screens, area denial, establish locus, and then 1's going to be near your home objective to deploy the sisters and sticky it on the top of 2. That is the list, though. Again, we're really maximizing our mobility here and trying to get firing lanes and maximize our amount of lead we're sending down range to pick up our opponents as much as possible in turns 1, 2, and 3, and then outscore them 4 and 5. If you are enjoying the video, please take a moment to like and share it with a friend, as it would really help us out. Questoris Companions is an interesting one, as it really focuses on us bringing as many large knights as possible, because these stratagems only work on the large knights, which is unfortunate, but the bonus of getting multiple oaths and qualities accomplished is extremely powerful. If it's kind of a momentum type list where you start strong and stay strong for the remainder of the game. So it is tricky to play because we are bringing few models, but let's dive into it. I am very much in the air of 2, maybe 3 bigs at most, but I think for this detachment specifically, we are running 4 to maximize the ability to have all those stratagems for as long as possible in the game. We're starting off with Canis Rex because his free stratagem or discount is extremely important in this detachment, because we are going to be using the sticky objective once per turn with him for free to make sure that later in the game we can, once all the reserves are down, we can start pushing forward aggressively. We're running 2 melee knights. You can easily swap the Gallant for a errant or the Lancer for an Atropos, but I do like this double melee threat. The reason being is it allows us to kind of have 2 to 3 waves later in the game. You can do the turn 1 charge to lock up your opponent in their deployment zone, because either of these big mechs will do that, but I don't encourage it because then they take it out on bottom of 1. And then now there's chances that we're not going to have a big knight left for turns 4 and 5, which I think is extremely crucial. So really what you're going to want to do here is post up based on what the anti-tank looks like from your opponent, is post up the Gallant stage to rush in turn 2 or 3. The big thing here is that we can allow it to consolidate 9 inches. It being able to pile in 9 and consolidate 9 is absolutely ginormous. This thing can get in there, have the right weapon for the right profile, take that out, and move dramatically fast into our opponent, creating problems. It is not as tough as the Lancer, but I think the mobility of it is extremely powerful, so do not take that for granted. And then we stage the Lancer either in our expansion to guard it for a moment, threatening our opponent, or moving in as well as the second wave to the Gallant. Take your pick which one you want to send in there first. It's up to you. I honestly would probably prefer sending in the Lancer, as there's less melee or less trash profiles that it can go into positively, versus the Gallant could pick those up. And so my thought process here would be to send in the Gallant top of 2 or bottom of 2, maybe bottom of 1, depending on what your opponent does, and kind of start drawing fire, and that allows your other mechs to post forward. Canis is going to be a little conservative for the first couple of turns to make sure he can sticky and has some significant play in the late game. Because we're such a few or low model count, we are running 3 Helverins. Again, that's going to counteract our double melee bigs and essentially cover the back lanes, do a little bit of screening, and still get shooting down range when possible, as well as clearing out some of the trash for our bigger knights. And finally, the Knight Crusader, because something has to guard the home objective. And in most terrain layouts, this thing can still stand on the home if it needs to, performing a screen, tow into the building, and shoot down the majority of the firing lanes. Once our opponent's reserves are down and our home is sticky thanks to Canis, then we can push it forward and still effectively engage an effect. And because of our other bigs drawing fire, it allows the Crusader to go unscathed for the majority of the game, hopefully. Next up, we have Gate Warden Lance. This one focuses on us drawing a line somewhere on the battlefield, either across no man's land or from our deployment zone into our opponent, and standing on that line, as well as keeping our opponent off of it. I think this is one of the trickier detachments to play because of the obvious limitation that we have. Our opponent could play around it, and we have to adjust accordingly. But because of that, we are starting off with the Knight Crusader with the Ignores Cover enhancement. This one is the most likely knight able to stay on the line and still effectively affect the board with its long range shooting. That one's a no-brainer. We are bringing Canis Rex. A lot of the stratagems benefit him being on the line and allow him to kind of make good use of that discount, as well as just being able to shoot some things at a decent range. Obviously have the highest rate of guarantee to pick up things in melee and be able to consolidate back onto the line, hopefully, so we can continue that. It is one of the things you play around here with your melee knights being able to, not being able to. So because of that, we are splitting right down the middle with our armigers, 3 Helverins and 3 Warglaves. Again, these guys are doing what they do best. Helverins are going to accomplish actions at long range or shoot off our enemy opponent's chaff, staying on the line if possible. And the Warglaves are going to do the best they can. Obviously, we always want to activate the spears in melter range, so that's going to make it a little more difficult for them, but they still could potentially guard objectives while remaining on the line. drawing fire away from both Canis and our Crusader. Because we do have to play around staying on the line, we are running the more typical package of allies in this detachment, with an Immolator splitting up a squad of Battle Sisters into 2 sets of 5 and the Calidus Assassin. This is because we need something to guard our objectives and perform actions off of the line, and that's what this package is going to do. The Immolator will strip cover for the Helverins when it can, but most likely it's going to end up guarding our expansion if you decide to do the line down from home objective to home objective. Sisters are allow us to sticky and again perform actions and do things outside of the line, or even screen out for our more aggressive units that have to try to remain on the line. Calidus Assassin will be shedding her Vector from time to time, but more importantly, she is going to be the one that can bounce around the field and do the actions when we have to remain on the line. I've had minimal experience with this detachment, so I can't speak too much to it. Probably other people that are able to place more emphasis on what exactly is needed when running it, but this is the list I think that can succeed within that detachment. Spearhead at Arms is the Armiger-focused detachment. The big thing here is that we're able to spread our Knight's Bondsman ability to 3 different Armigers at a time, which can prove to be extremely potent. So let's talk about what we're going to be spreading. We are going to start off with the Knight Castigator, which hasn't seen very much play, but I think in this detachment actually can do some work. There is a consideration to bring the Warden here in this spot, as it allows for sustained hits and ignores cover, but I am rolling with the Castigator for the additional movement and additional chaff clearing weapon with the twin linked autocannons, and the fact that the +1 AP and sustained effectively does the same thing that ignores cover does, but there has the opportunity to improve when the opponent does not have access to cover, which does come into play. So allowing our Helverins to go up to AP 2, 3 damage with sustained hits, potentially AP 4, or correction, AP 3 with a stratagem is extremely potent. It does not have an invul in melee, which does matter. So you do want to be somewhat conservative with it initially, but it can punch up quite a bit with that blade. It's fantastic into anti-infantry, but does some work into anti-tank as well with that strong AP4 sword. It's just only 4 attacks. I am giving it the reroll 1s enhancement, so when it buffs the Helverins, they're also rerolling 1s, which is fantastic. In this detachment, I play the Helverins fairly conservative, and so we are only running 3 of them, all of them staying within range of the Castigator, maybe 1 in front to protect it, but again, they're going to be doing some serious damage. The buff from the Castigator isn't too bad on the Warglaives as well, so it's not completely wasted. You could do a 4-4 split, but I am leaning towards 5 Warglaives because these are the ones we are going to send forward to soak up the majority of the damage, having the -1 incoming damage buff from the Defender, which is our other big knight. The shooting from the Defender is interesting. I'm still getting my way around it as far as where it is most effective and not, but the -1 incoming damage buff on 3 Warglaives, turning them essentially into Redemptors, is absolutely fantastic. And the reason why we are running 5 of them is because we want to send them out in waves, essentially maybe 1 or 2 turn 1, and then all 3 on turn 3. And your opponent's not going to be able to chew through all of them. And this allows us to kind of sacrifice 1 or 2, and why we're running the full 5, because those are the ones we expect to die, not the Helverins. I also play this way where I don't worry about the Defender's cover ability, giving other things the 4-up invul, because you want it to stay in conversion, out of conversion range. The conversion beam is extremely significantly more potent when it does remain long range, and so this guy is pretty much the last thing your opponent goes after in my experience. And because of this, we have just enough points to bring in a Ministorium Priest. This guy will guard the home objective if your opponent does not have indirect. If they do have indirect, then I recommend keeping them in reserves until you need to bring them down to score some points, or once the indirect threat has been dealt with. Pretty straightforward list, but I think the play in there is extremely powerful. The nice thing about the Helverins as well is that you can keep them on one side of the board edge with the Castigator towards the center, and if needed, your opponent shifts away from you. The Castigator has the mobility to get to where it needs to, but the Helverins can then be picked up and put down on the other side of the board. The fall back and shoot is very nice as well in this detachment. It's solid. I have enjoyed it. It seems like a straightforward list, but the play is pretty interesting based on doing your bondsman abilities and then the way these stratagems work. That is going to do it for today. I purposely skipped the Grotmist detachment because I will be honest with you, I have zero experience with AdMech and would not feel comfortable creating a list for you. Without some level of practice. All these other lists I have deployed and practiced and had success with, and that's why I am sharing them with you. If you liked the video and got something out of it, well then, hey, drop us a like so we know you want to see more content like this. But that will do it for today. So until next time, as always, my friends, happy gaming.